Hugo Blanco Galdós, born November 15, 1934, is a Peruvian political figure, leader of the Confederación Campesina del Perú, CCP, Campesino Confederation of Peru, leader of Trotsky's Fourth International and a writer. Early life. When Blanco was a child, he heard that a landowner applied a red-hot iron on an indigenous man. When he was 10, he met an indigenous leader who told him the story of his struggles. He involved himself in school strikes against Odrea, which the students won. At age 20, he traveled to Buenos Aires and began studying in the university. There he joined a workers' party after he met Argentinian Trotskyists. Without finishing his agronomical studies in Argentina's Universidad de La Plata, he became a worker in a factory because he did not want to work for the landowners. He worked on a coffee plantation as a subtenant farmer. Peasant struggle. Returning to Peru, he joined the Revolutionary Workers' Party, PAW, in Lima and participated in the famous protest to the then Vice President of the United States, Richard Nixon, in 1958. Following those demonstrations, Blanco caught the attention of the police and decided to move to his home region in the Convención Valley. Here he took residence in 1958 as a subtenant farmer, immersing himself in local politics. Beginning in 1958, with the help of students from the Cuzco University, Blanco's Quechua Federation mobilized the Aligados against the Hacendados and Arrendayers. In the early 1960s, he led the Quechua peasant uprising in the Cuzco region of Peru. He was the first who managed to build a bridge between the Spanish-speaking intellectuals and the Quechua-speaking workers. He organized the 2,000 peasants in trade unions which occupied the landowners' lands and organized the defense of the occupations against the police and the landowners. His organization controlled an area where national control did not exist. There he put an agrarian reform into effect. He set up a peasant trade union in the valleys of Convención and Lares in Cuzco. Blanco's Chaupimayo community had its government, public law, popular justice, defense and education. Blanco called this dual power. It was reported at this time that, while he was arresting a hacienda owner in Piura who raped a little girl, he shot a police officer in self-defense. According to some historians, this seems to be propaganda, since he could not have been at Piura at the time. De la Puente rejected a union with Blanco because Blanco was a Trotskyist. Captured by the military, he was sentenced to 25 years imprisonment on the island of El Frontin. Nearly all his Trotskyist comrades were already in prison when he was captured. In 1963, Unionists took the city of Quillabamba, who were carrying out an order that was issued in Cuzco by the Federation to go on strike, so that some imprisoned union leaders, among them Hugo Blanco, would be freed. During his imprisonment he wrote Land of Death, the peasant struggle in Peru. During this time he exchanged letters with José María Argudas which were written in Quechua. In 1968 he was chosen by the Swedish section of Amnesty International as Prisoner of the Year. Exile. In 1971 Blanco was deported to Chile during Augusto Pinochet's coup on September 11, 1973. He took refuge at the Swedish embassy, from where he was smuggled out of the country under dramatic circumstances under the leadership of Ambassador Harold Edelstam in 1976, following an international solidarity campaign that included Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and Bertrand Russell. In 1976, he became a political refugee in Sweden, where he supported himself among other jobs as a language teacher at Sando School and as a warehouse worker in a press office. In 1977, the Canadian organization USLA achieved to get a non-immigrant visa for Hugo Blanco so he could travel to the USA, where he spoke on a tour that was organized by USLA. Blanco spoke to approximately 10,000 people in the USA, returned to Peru. After spending several years of exile in Sweden, Mexico and Chile, he returned to Peru in 1978. Was a founder of the Workers' Revolutionary Party and was elected to parliament on a left-wing slate. In 1980 he was a presidential candidate in Peru. A leftist revolutionary alliance formed to support him. He came in fourth out of 16 candidates. In 1983 he accused General Clemente Noel, who was then the military chief of the Ayacucho region, of murder. Because of this he was suspended from his seat until the end of the current session. He served in a Peruvian Senate as a representative of the Partido Unificado Mariaquista until 1992 because of Alberto Fujimori's self-coup and declaration of a state of emergency. After he received information that both the Peruvian intelligence police and by Shining Path had sentenced him to death, together with 2 of his children and his wife, he fled to Mexico, where he was granted asylum following. After the Healy Group stated that Joseph Hansen, George Novick and the Socialist Workers' Party were aiding Joseph Stalin's assassins, he signed a statement that refuted the allegations against them. Hugo Blanco is currently director of a Cusco-based newspaper called Lucha Indigena, and a member of the editorial board of Sin Permiso. He stated that today it is no longer logical to form a Trotskyist party. Today he believes in the ideology of Zapatism. In 2008 he was arrested for the crime of violence and resisting authority. Many people and institutions demanded his liberation, and since he was not present at the date where the incident happened, the authorities freed him. Eco-socialism. In 1991 Blanco published a text in which he described that the inhabitants of the town of Ilo and surrounding villages were defending their villages against pollution from the southern Peru Copper Corporation. In 2008 he signed the Bellum Eco-Socialist Declaration. He said that he supports the workers of the Vestas wind turbine on the Isle of Wight who had occupied their factory. In 2010, during September and October, he toured Britain. A group of Green leftists organized lectures by him all over the country. He said that the current struggle of the indigenous people is not only socialistic but also ecological. Private life. He is the father of 6 children, including Carmen Blanco Valla, born 1959, who grew up in Sweden, who is a chairman of the group Solidarity Sweden Latin America. In 2002, Hugo Blanco suffered a brain hemorrhage during a visit in a peasant community in the Cusco region. Despite all difficulties, he managed to be treated in Mexico City, where he remained in hospital until during 2003. Friends and colleagues from all around the world helped him with the hospital bills. His granddaughter, by way of his daughter Carmen, is Cisela Nordling Blanco, spokesperson of the Swedish Feminist Initiative Party and candidate for the Riksdag, the Swedish parliament, in the 2014 general election. Quotes, "I do not believe in struggling to take power, but to build it." Quote, "We must initiate this revolution within ourselves." Quote, bibliography. Books. 1972 Land or Death. The Peasant Struggle in Peru. 1972 Hugo Blanco on Chile and Peru. 1973 Argentinian and Bolivian. Ina Bylands. 1973 The Coup in Chile. First-hand report and assessment. 1974 Disaster in Chile. Allende strategy and why it failed. 1978 Workers and Peasants to Power. A revolutionary program for Peru. Unknown date. Poems form the struggle in Latin America together with Cesar Vallejo, Otto René Castillo, Leonel Rugama, Heyday Santa Maria, Silvio Rodriguez, Carlos Maria Gutierrez, Roque Dalton. Arceles Morales. Articles. 1964. A Debate on Strategy. Cuzco and the Specificities of the Struggles in Peru. 2001 Elections in Peru, together with Juan Navigators. 2003 Experiences in International Solidarity. 2006 A Revolutionary Process That Is Different. 2006 Progress of the Indigenous Movement Against the System. 2007 The Epic Struggle of Indigenous Andean Amazonian Cultures. 2007 Peru. The Earthquake and the Vultures. 2007 A Triumphant Advance, Landslide Victory for the Alianza País. 2007 Biography. 2007 The Indian Problem in Peru. From Mariátegui to Today. 2007 Chile. The Lesson that Venezuela Learned. 2008 Appeal. Repression in Peru Intensifies. 2008 Peru. Hugo Blanco. My Arrest. 2008 I Promise to Keep Fighting Until My Last Breath. My Arrest. 2008 The Fight for Indigenous Rights. 2009 Massacre at Bagua. 2009 Peru. Amazonian Indigenous People Rise Up. 2009 From the Other Side of the World. Hugo Blanco thanks the Vestas workers. 2010 Only extinction of capitalism will ensure the survival of our species. 2010 Reply to Pablo Stefanonis, Indianismo and Panchamamismo. Interviews with him. 1976 The masses have realized how little has changed. 2008 No contradiction between my indigenous struggle and dialectical materialism by Yasser Gomez. 2009 Peru. Veteran guerrilla fighter Hugo Blanco speaks on Amazon struggle by Bill Weinberg. 2009 Indigenous people are the vanguard of the fight to save the earth. Books about him. 1967 Free Hugo Blanco, by André Gunder Frank and Kenneth Golby. 1967 Hugo Blanco Must Not Die, an address to a meeting in solidarity with the imperiled Peruvian leader and the freedom struggle in Latin America, by André Gunder Frank, published by University of Toronto. Films about him. 1970 Hans-Peter Pfeiffer, What Happened to Che Guevara? In the Country of Hugo Blanco.